I joined a couple of years ago on a secondment here, and we were, I saw how the High Commissioner had this vision of driving, of bringing in innovation, and at that time it was a beginning cell. The OE 2.0 strategy, change management. Was looking at how can we how can we build this up? How can we expand this? And at one moment in time, I think Anwar, I don't know when you came in, but it was also about 2 years ago, no? Starting from zero and really trying to bring change in the way OHHR does business. And obviously we've seen that in across the whole of the UN. We've heard about that. Of course, it was based on the realization that manual methods cannot keep up with the demands of the moment. And the result now, 18 months later, is the Innovation and Analytics Hub, led by Anwar. Adrian is part of it, Amy, many others. That Luzal, I don't know, I'm not doing you all justice, but I'm incredibly proud to show you today, or they have shown you today, what is possible and what they have already been working on and what we're co-creating with all of you, what they are co-creating with you. Anwar is going to talk to you a little bit today about what else is in the pipeline, what has already been developed, what is being created, and what the potential are. Maybe I'm not going to say very much more because Anwar, I think you could talk about much more. He will be talking about how we bring innovation to human rights and human rights to innovation. And as we've said before, innovation is very important for human rights, but human rights is also very important for innovation. And he will also be talking about the 30 by 30 by 30 project, 30 projects for 30 communities by 2030. Anwar, let me hand you the floor.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and all the kind words, I think they go to the Innovation and Analytics Hub team and everybody else who's also been supporting us across the office. We certainly we did not start from scratch. I mean, obviously innovation starts somewhere, but I think the office had done quite a lot. I think for us, it was a matter of just channeling and trying to have a vision around what we want to do, how do we move forward, and also trying to mobilize, bringing people to the table, not just internally, but also externally as well. And we're really lucky to have seen so many people today in this building, which is something quite unique. And we are really excited that everybody could take the time to join us in person at this hour. I know it's been a long day, so thank you so much for staying the whole time. And also congratulations to the Call for Code winners. So that was, it's been running for quite a while. I was nominated a judge. I did look at some of them as well, and I do agree with your choice. So thank you so much for the partnership there, and also for the. I'm also glad that being a Kenyan, I saw Linda comes from Kenya, so that was also something that was close to my heart. So thank you so much for that, and congratulations again. And I will be joined by Luzal, Vaidya. Where is he? Yeah, is there? Yeah, you could. I think you can come. He's gonna do the HRDx showcase part of the presentation, and I will run through the 30 by 30. So first, I mean, I think essentially what 30 by 30 by 30, which as you've seen the whole day, it's basically our vision to have about 30 projects anchored on 30 communities by 2030. I have to say, this idea came from Amy, actually, who's behind. We needed a target on how we will be able to mobilize and move, also that's going to curate how fast we want to accelerate and really do something. So obviously very ambitious. And with that, it sort of formed our umbrella approach in how we want to tackle the next few days for the hub. Now, one would say, why do you need 30 by 30? So we've heard today, Astrid has mentioned it as well, human rights needs innovation. I think that is something that we've come to appreciate quite strongly internally within the office, but also externally across the world within the human rights ecosystem. We do believe that innovation has a lot of potential and offers a lot of opportunity to also advance and protect and promote human rights. Today, we also look at the risk part of it, and I think part of the innovations can also be about advancing how to manage, mitigate, and also amplify human rights within the use of digital technologies and so on and so forth. So all that anchored into the 30 by 30 vision, and also looking a little bit more deeply and looking at how the approaches that we use. Today's summit is about how we advance human rights in the digital age. We cannot advance the trajectory of how technology is evolving, which is an exponential change with linear approaches, right? So that's really the way we see it. And to do that, we need to have a multi-stakeholder environment where we're able to do things in a much more non-linear fashion, right? So 30 by 30 allows us to connect not just internally within the office, but also connect further with partners, companies, member states, and others. Build a coalition of the willing, so to speak, not to use, coin the word, but try to push forward in terms of what we want to do and how we are able to advance our work. Thank you. Okay. Now, what are those areas of innovation? So we had a banner outside there. I mean, the hub was formed to look at these key areas. One of them was data, and looking at how do we unlock human rights data for good. Now, we have a lot of data on human rights. The human rights data ecosystem is fragmented by design. There's a lot of information that is in qualitative nature. AI and new technologies offer significant opportunities and potential for us to be able to unlock the value of this information. How do we allow the corpus of human rights knowledge accessible to everyone, everywhere, right? So that is part of the challenge that we have. How do we use data internally within UN human rights, and how do we, in UN human rights, anchored within SDG 16, which underpins all the other SDGs and the the wider UN system, how do we advance data to support all the UN work? The other piece is technology. We just spoke about, we've been speaking about AI almost the whole day. This is an area of immense opportunity, as I mentioned, but also how do we advance tech for human rights, enabling us to be much more efficient, enabling us to be able to connect with communities, bringing human rights. I've heard the High Commissioner once speaking about, he talked about today about the universality of human rights. While they're universal and they're global in that nature, but the application of human rights is very local, right? Now, to do that in a resource constrained environment is very difficult. Technology allows us to expand the reach and participation of human rights to everyone, everywhere. So this is an immense opportunity, not just for the office, but everybody who's working on human rights. And I'm guessing many of you in the room as well, you believe me. You believe me when I say so. And then the other piece is on foresight. How do we use data to understand what happened, why it happened, what we need to do, and what are we doing about it, right? How do we do that? And looking a little bit ahead, looking at how the data tells us and what perhaps might happen, so that we're able to anticipate and look into a little bit into the future. And then the last one is about statistics. We need measurements of human rights. How do we measure human rights in our day-to-day? I was always working with statisticians before in my previous roles, but when I came to OSHR and working much more closely with the statistics team, I do realize there's a huge gap in terms of availability of verified, statistically, verified data on human rights in particular. If we do not know what happened somewhere, we cannot measure it. We don't have ways of measuring it, or we are not collecting that information. Then nobody knows, and we cannot advocate for things. We cannot speak about some of these topics and so on and so forth. So in this day and age where authoritative information, data is the most important thing, statistics are really the backbone of the work of the hub as well. And trying to expand those metrics and statistical data that we already have, plus what we need to collect, I think is also an important piece as well. Now, how does that work? I'm going to be fast tracking a little bit because of time. I'm getting some looks around here.
I'm not looking. I'm not looking. I'm
yeah.
very interested.
So how does that work? As I mentioned, we're trying to connect innovation with bringing partners together. Yeah. So for some of you who have met in the corridors or in person, we've tried to match projects, for example, with the line of work, trying to find out, is there somebody who can support, pitching, connected projects, because we don't believe that we need to do everything ourselves. We cannot do that. We don't need to collect all the data ourselves as OSHR. We have a healthy ecosystem of partners, whether it's the human rights sphere, but also humanitarian sphere, that have done a phenomenal work. I think what we need to do is bring everybody together and also find out where the gaps and try to find partners who are able to help us, invest in us, and believe in the cause that can be able to take us forward. And that's really the ethos of the 30 by 30. Yeah. Yeah. And I spoke about the target in the beginning. So obviously could look ambitious as you see it on the screen, but we are looking at about 5 million per year. I mean, Luke in the morning talked about how much of a fraction of money the human rights demands from member states every year. This is almost, nothing to get a backbone of information to be able to support tools or platforms or innovations that can support and provide meaningful solutions across the world. We believe that this is very viable, and this is what we've sought out to do so far. Now, a little bit about the catalog. So we've done a little bit of research internally, externally. We've done a lot of connecting with colleagues internally, but also partners externally through events such as these and others to find out what are the real challenges. So one of the solutions we're looking at, this is one of the projects. So today we're going to look at the Human Rights Data Exchange, which forms the backbone of the data or information that we want to collect on the human rights across the human rights ecosystem. And that's both what we collect, but also externally. And then that's going to power a number of applications that are both supporting the work of human rights, the United Nations and our partners, but also communities out there. So for example, Libra AI is an application where it uses AI to curate the corpus of knowledge on the human rights system. Many of you, if you're familiar with the workings of the Human Rights Council, for example, there are millions of documents out there. Many of them are in the public domain. They're textual in nature. None of them are synthesized. How do you harvest data analytics to inform not only the council itself, which is also a challenge, but also how do those form the basis of future decisions? How do you, for example, look at the international human rights law codified? For example, we're looking at application of that in the legal sphere, whether you're doing research or you're an individual community. Think of a factory worker, for example, in Bangladesh, wanting to know what their rights are. They would go to an app like Libra AI and be able to just, search in that. And the information behind it is trusted, verified, and sort of coded within, in human rights due diligence framework. The other piece is on business and investors. We are doing some prototypes on this space as well, looking at how does the normative guidance produced by the Human Rights Office, how is that served externally to others at scale? Yeah. So obviously the constrained environment limits how many people you can have in the office, but how do we use technology to diffuse that? I talked about accessibility, strengthening partnership. How does an innovator, such as Linda app, when they're doing that, how do they, look into human rights due diligence, for example, right? They will be able to go there and look at, okay, to mitigate bias, this is what I need to do, and so on and so forth. And all that is guided by the guidance that the office produced, but served at scale. The other piece is on education, to make sure that we're able to communicate information that is also important. Then the other module that this is again something that we are thinking about and have done some prototypes on. We are trying to scale that hopefully 2026 with your supports. Is Beacon AI. Now this is on the sphere of learning a little bit about what's going on within the system. A lot of UN entities work on situation awareness. We focus on our domains. You have, refugees, for example. You have internally displaced persons. You have a lot of platforms that really talk about that in depth. But how do you bring that together within the human rights lens and be able to serve that and be able to actually come up with some kind of anticipatory actions that are grounded on human rights? So we're looking at the models that exist. In the corridors at the Expo, for example, looking at inform early warning, for example, and others. But how do we inject human rights into that? And Beacon AI is one of those projects that is going to take us there. I'm going to finish with one slide, which I think is the impact that we aspire to have. We are, the office is in about 90 locations in different shapes, forms, and sizes, I believe. But we believe that we need to ground ourselves to the extent possible to the community level. And innovation cannot be what we are selling. I think we need to sell at a local level, the human rights work, right? So that's when it's actually innovations translate into human rights. And this is really one of our challenges. We need to make the discussions not just about the technology, but I think about how the technology supports human rights. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to invite Luzal to speak a little bit more about HRDx, and then perhaps we can look a little bit on a demo. Yeah, thanks so much.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and perhaps good morning, good evening to people joining online. I'll be very brief. We'll try to exercise brevity, considering I can see the looks. It's been a long day. All right, how do I? Sure. So as you see on the slide, so HRDx is the world's first authoritative human rights data exchange, empowering human rights defenders, civil society, and decision makers everywhere. But again, after hearing today's speakers, I'm compelled to rephrase. HRDx is our solution to sludge and slop removal for human rights. That's a new statement, I would say. So why are we doing this? We're building HRDx because the current data landscape in the human rights ecosystem is fragmented. And digital systems and tools we're currently using are outdated. In that regard, HRDx is a game changer, empowering defenders and policymakers with modern tools, accessible tools, and the data infrastructure, the backbone Anwar talked about, that can not only share served data, but generate intelligence at scale and speed to close a lot of the protection gaps we're seeing right now. So what sets HRDx apart from the mountain and sea of tools out there? And some of the clues I think I've already said is it's open, authoritative, and also fit for the future as an AI-powered, the first of its kind in human rights ecosystem. So it unlocks analytics at scale, ensures trusted access, and also leverages the entire UN ecosystem's data assets with human rights standards for everyone, everywhere. So we envision it will drive change by helping in longer term and systemic projects, such as anticipating risks and supporting early warning action. For example, by serving quantitative and qualitative data indicators guided by the human rights rationale, by systematizing data collection globally, interoperability, and sharing at scale, and further strengthening the evidence base needed for action and advocacy in global human rights. So finally, I would also like to say that, as Anwar alluded, the foundation, it also lays the foundation for responsible AI governance. For example, when I mean that, by serving authoritative guidance and resources for implementing the UN guiding principles on business and human rights in the technology space. So OHCHR, as I think previous speakers have mentioned it, has already been doing this for many years. But what HRDx does is shifts the paradigm of how we serve knowledge and insights at scale in the 21st century using conversational AI and dramatically perhaps improving the accessibility in multiple languages around the world. So HRDx is built to strengthen our mandate, OHCHR's mandate at every level, again, from early warning and prevention to country support, monitoring, also the normative functions in terms of standard settings, and most importantly, the protection of citizens and global human rights worldwide. So finally, I would like to conclude by saying that by connecting data currently in silos around the world and within the multilateral system, business processes, and people, from policymakers to civil society, HRDx drives the impact for all stakeholders, thereby turning insight into action and in an effort to safeguard rights globally. So with that, let's perhaps see HRDx in action. I would have to warn you, these are the MVP stages. So we still have a lot to go. It's the first in the journey. So thank you.
The Human Rights Data Exchange makes it easier than ever to access data, explore insights, and act on human rights issues through intelligent assistance, interactive visuals, and maps. HRDx enables action, strengthens accountability, and equips people with the insights needed to safeguard their rights. What does this better access to data mean for people around the world? It's 10 p.m. in Geneva. Ambassador Rodriguez just received word that an emergency Human Rights Council special session has been called for tomorrow morning regarding escalating global attacks on human rights defenders in South Sudan. HRDx turns late-night crisis prep into instant evidence-based briefings, empowering diplomats and policymakers to act fast and protect defenders at risk. Anna is preparing a comparative briefing on Albania and Serbia for the UN Committee on Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights. Both countries are parties to the International Covenant, and she needs to assess their relative progress in fulfilling the right to an adequate standard of living. Anna receives a clear, evidence-based comparison that transforms development statistics into human rights compliance analysis, enabling her to provide targeted recommendations grounded in international legal obligations. Biko is a technologist looking for information about which human rights concerns to consider when developing a new AI product. With HRDx, governments, companies, and innovators can access an AI assistant that serves practical guidance, helping them build technology aligned with human rights standards.
I'm Wanjiku. As Executive Director of Sotia Haki, I have witnessed the silent toll of armed conflict. Lives lost, families changed forever. Today, we harness the power of SDG 16 data to spotlight the true human cost and drive global action for civilian protection. I use the Visual Explorer and filter for the right to life to comprehend the scale and gravity captured in these numbers. I select total conflict-related deaths and study this data, guided by the human rights rationale. The trend is alarming, more lives lost each year. I look deeper at how many were women, how many were children. Driven to act, I reach out to partners, using this evidence to build alliances and make the case to donors.
Hello, I'm Daniel. As a member of the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, known as GANRI, I've spent years working to strengthen the global network of independent NHRIs. Today, I rely on SDG 16 data from the Human Rights Data Exchange to understand where progress is real and where the world is still falling short. Every insight brings me closer to the bigger picture, a world where every country has an independent national human rights institution capable of defending rights and holding power to account.
Hi, I'm Maya. As a human rights activist working to advance the rights of persons with disabilities, I've sat with too many stories of exclusion that never make it into official reports. Today, I turn to HRDx data to make sure those voices are impossible to ignore. I search for indicators linked to equality and non-discrimination. With a few filters, I find exactly what I need. Data on self-reported discrimination in country X, including the experiences of persons with disabilities. Guided by the metadata and human rights framing, I examine the prevalence rates, compare them with global patterns, and identify where persons with disabilities face disproportionate barriers.
Guidance is scaling to match the speed of innovation, ensuring the tools of tomorrow are designed to reduce risks and work for humanity. By harnessing the power of data and AI, UN Human Rights is creating a future where technology empowers communities, drives accountability, and helps to safeguard rights everywhere. With HRDx, we are protecting people, powering progress, and building a future-ready human rights system.
Thank you very much. And well, a snapshot of all the great work that is going to come. I was just thinking this morning, we live in very difficult times. It's a very depressing time. And so we see the reversal of human rights everywhere. But for me, a big light was today going to this conference. Of course, we've been to this summit. We've been working on it. The team has been working on it much more than I have, but we've been preparing for it. We know that in this difficult day and age, we need to look at hopeful opportunities. And I think innovation and AI is one of those opportunities. As said, innovation, human rights does need innovation, and innovation needs human rights. And with this new way of working, we can indeed, we have less money, but we can do more with less. We're all saying, you know, we cannot do more with less, but with this we can. There will be new opportunities, opportunities that will allow us in our human rights work to plan better, to know more, to prevent maybe more human rights violations from happening, to protect better. And that is what we, of course, not only us, but the bigger human rights ecosystem, what is so important and what we will need to get to. So I leave today with a lot of hope, and I hope you do too. I hope you come back tomorrow at 9 o'clock. I want to thank Cynthia for having walked us through today and coming back tomorrow. I hope you will. Thanks for being here the whole day and listening to so many things. I know there's many events that you couldn't attend, but of course online a lot of material will be available, and you can look back. But watch this space. There's so much more exciting things to happen, not only tomorrow, but in the month and years to come. And with many thanks to the team for pulling this together. And see you tomorrow at 9, I hope.